Thank you very much, Marco, and thanks everyone for the time today. I think I spoke at this conference a couple of years ago about our business when we were at an earlier stage of our revolution, and I'm very pleased to be able to come back and tell you a bit about how Onefinestay has grown. For those who aren't familiar with our business, Onefinestay was founded in 2010. It's mostly my fault. In late 2009, I had an idea about the kind of travel experience that I wasn't able to enjoy when I was traveling for work and for leisure purposes. And I also have a place in central London, and it frustrated me that although when I was traveling, my place just stood empty, when I was visiting other places in the world and other cities, the places where I'd want to stay were probably the ones owned by people who didn't really need my money. And so you have this conundrum that the places that you most want to go are the ones that are hardest to access, and yet actually those are the places where the greatest value would be unlocked if only someone existed to unlock that value. We started in London in 2010, and our business model, put very simply, is that we make the hassle and complexity and friction of making your home available to somebody for a short period of time, whether it's a few days or a few weeks or a few months, we make that friction and hassle disappear, so that on the margin you're more inclined to do this you would otherwise be. You can think about us as a marketplace, beautiful homes and people who come stay in those homes. But it's really a services-enabled marketplace. And it's those services that unlock the kind of beautiful properties that you would want to stay in if you could stay anywhere when visiting foreign cities. From a guest's experience perspective, Onefinestay is an alternative to an upscale hotel. You get to stay in a beautiful home with all the authenticity and the character that that represents, but you get to stay in that home with the services, the amenities, the comforts, and the assurance of a boutique hotel. Of course, there's lots of other companies who have realized, as we have, that unlocking homestays is a lucrative market. However, there really aren't other companies who've combined these crucial pieces of the value proposition for guests who are principally quality sensitive rather than price sensitive. We think of those three pieces of the value proposition being that these are real homes. The people who list their homes with Onefinestay are people like you and me. These are mostly first homes, sometimes second properties and pied-à-terres. These are not commercial landlords, they're not investment properties. These are people's homes when they're away. That means they're the kinds of homes which look like that. It's also a curated set of those homes. Not only do we visit those homes in person every time we accept someone into the club, but we then manage and take responsibility for maintaining the standards of that home while someone is a member. And as I've touched on already, the experience that guests enjoy when they stay in a Onefinestay property is a luxury curated experience, but it's also a serviced experience. We have staff in all the markets where we operate who supply and support guests with that experience while they stay with us. Who are the people who stay with us? Well, you probably find a similar group of people staying in any of the upscale hotels in London, the boutique hotels like the Ferndale Group or André Ballage's Standard. Any of these companies address a similar set of guest needs. Onefinestay, because these are often larger homes with 2, 3, or more bedrooms, is particularly relevant to family groups, to people staying for longer periods of time for whom a hotel would get pretty old pretty fast. However, by no means does our business model represent a hotel killer. There are still many categories of guest stay. For instance, if you're in town here in London for a couple of nights for NOAH, it's most unlikely that you would really evaluate a homestay as an alternative to a business hotel for short periods of time. So it's about 70% leisure. Only about 30% of our business are people coming for work purposes or for part of the trip being a work purpose. And as you can see, primarily because we largely market in English and because of the cities where we operate, most of our guests come to us today from English-speaking countries. That represents one of the biggest opportunities for us for growing in the next few years. Last time I was here, Onefinestay had just launched in New York, if memory serves. Since then, we've launched in 2 further markets, Paris and Los Angeles. In all these 4 markets, we operate exactly the same model. It's a fully staffed business. And in each of those 4 markets, as we've launched, we've got a little bit better and a little bit more confident at scaling up our business. although we're not talking about revenue numbers publicly at the moment, as you can see, a bit of practice does make perfect, or certainly more perfect. And we've been able to demonstrate not only replicability of our business model, but accelerating replicability as we've expanded into new territories. The company today employs about 500 people on a full-time basis, and it operates across those 4 key cities with plans over the next 12 months to expand into, hopefully, another 4 cities. If I'm ever invited back to NOAH, I hope to be able to tell you about the progress we've continued to make. It's worth my dwelling just briefly on how we see the accommodation landscape and the hotel landscape evolving. London is very typical of a lot of other large, major accommodation or hospitality markets, in that a good proportion of the dollars that are spent on accommodation in a city like London are spent at the upscale and luxury end of the market. That's where we operate, right? The guests who stay with us are not solving for the cheapest stay possible. They're solving for comfort and quality of experience with that assurance promise that only a branded service can deliver. Turns out that's also where most of the dollars are spent in urban. It's in the upscale category. And that's our price point, roughly $250 per bedroom per night, very similar to the kind of amount you pay to stay in a Hilton or a Sheraton or any of the other mainstream upscale branded hotel products. Clearly, a lot of the fastest growing companies in this sector, or certainly the ones who have the highest profile, have attacked a mid and budget price point, a very different price point in the market. It's obviously much quicker to scale across many locations if that's the price point you're targeting, because you're not providing a fully serviced experience and you don't have those in-market support elements. So we tend to think, we're often asked, to what extent is what you're doing competitive with the pure play businesses? Our experience to date is this is a complementary product, in many ways as different from the sort of the house trips, Airbnbs, and Wimdus of the world, as is the Sheraton different from a Holiday Inn or a Howard Johnson Inn. They're fundamentally meeting different buyer needs, and they're meeting different seller needs. And the way that those needs are met is fundamentally different from a service proposition and business model perspective. It's also, as the numbers indicate, a very big market. And so over the course of the next few years, certainly Onefinestay's ambition is to conquer not just the 4 cities where we currently have presence, but many others. And since you guys are taking the trouble to hear the presentation, you also get to stay with us at a discounted rate. I'd be delighted to welcome you to one of those 4 places. And of course, just think right now, the home that you're not living in is sitting empty. What a waste. We'd be delighted to hear from you. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.